Hello and welcome to this new video tutorial of OpenCart Multimedia Marketplace. And in the previous video we were talking about the module configuration settings, or the initial settings that need to be configured before using this particular module within your OpenCart web store. So we talked about the enabling of the status and selecting the marketplace store. Then we had the general settings, the commission, how the fixed commission can be set, how the commission can be applied on the unit price, how the commission should be calculated on the text, and we talked about some product settings. So in today's video tutorial we'll be completing the other parts that are for the for the advanced options. Then we have orders, SEO settings, profile settings, cell settings, and the catalog module configuration, and the mail settings lastly. So let's get to the admin backend panel and let's try and see what different options we are left to configure. So I've already logged into my OpenCart web store, and on the left hand side I have my marketplace menu option, and you just need to tap the configurations sub menu option to bring up the initial settings that need to be configured for the marketplace. So in the previous video we had given you some overview of the general tab, and we talked about some commission section, then the product section like the low stock notifications, and the product fields that can be made available to the sellers, then the categories that can be enabled for the sellers, the images or the number of images that the sellers would be able to upload, and the other options. So today we'll be going through the advanced settings, and here we'll be talking about the quantity restriction options that we have, the price restriction options we have, how we can set the restriction priority, and seller category filter. And apart from that we'll also be going through the orders section, SEO settings, and we have the cell settings, we have the profile settings, we have the catalog module settings, mail settings, and the PayPal settings as well. So let's go to the advanced settings now. So under the quantity restriction we have three different options to configure. So the very first option that we have is the quantity restriction allowed. So for this quantity restriction allowed, we have an option to enable or disable this option to allow the sellers to manage quantity restrictions for their product. So if you've enabled this option, then the sellers would be able to manage the quantity restrictions for their particular products. Otherwise, if you have selected it as disabled, then the sellers would not be able to manage the quantity of their quantity restrictions for their products. Then we have the set purchase limit type, and here we have two different options. One is the product quantity and the number of products. So these two options can be chosen so as to set the purchase limit type. So accordingly, as per your requirement, you can choose the purchase limit type as whether it should be the quantity of the product or the number of the products. Then we have the set purchase limit. Basically you can set the purchase limit value in numericals. So you can set that value here for the set purchase limit type. So according to the set purchase limit type, the set purchase limit would be applicable. Then we have the price restriction, and here we have two options. The first is the price restriction allowed. So basically if you enable this option, then the sellers would be able to manage the price restriction for their own products. Otherwise you can disable it to not allow the sellers to manage the price restriction for their own products. After that we have the default price restriction value. So whatever value is set here by the seller for the price restriction, the same would be applied to the seller's product. So whatever the value the admin has set up here, the same would be applicable to the seller's products as well. Then we have the set restriction priority. Here the restriction can be set using the two different options that we have. One is the quantity restriction and the other one is the price restriction. So the admin can accordingly set the restriction priority. So here the selected what we say as the selected restriction will be treated as high priority if both the quantity and price restrictions are applicable on any order or product. So whatever you have chosen here, accordingly that would be set as the restriction priority. And lastly, we have the seller category filter, and here the admin can set the option that is allowed to use seller category filter on the category page. So you can enable or disable this option. So enable this option to use the seller category filter on the category page, else you can select it as disabled to not make use of the seller category filter on the category pages. So enabling it allows the customers to filter the seller products from the category pages. So accordingly the customers would be able to filter the seller products. Otherwise you can choose this option as disabled to not allow the seller category filter to be visible at the category pages. So that was about the advanced settings. Now let's go to the order settings and let's see what different options do we have for configuring this particular marketplace module. And basically here the admin can set up the different options of the order settings for the marketplace sellers. And the very first option that we have is the allow sellers to manage orders. So if you have chosen this option as enabled, then the sellers would be able to see their orders and they can manage their orders as well after an order is placed. Otherwise the admin needs to approve the order first for the sellers to see and manage the order. So disabling it would make the admin first approve the orders and then the sellers can manage it. Otherwise, if you have enabled this option, then the sellers would be able to see and manage their orders under their own account panel. So we'll set this option as enabled. Then we have sellers can change order status. So you can choose an enable or disable option. So if you enable this option, then the sellers can change the status of the order related to his products. Otherwise, they cannot change the order status for their own products. Then we have notify admin when order status is changed by seller. So you can make this option as enable or disable. So if this option is enabled, then the seller will receive a mail when a customer purchases the seller's product. Otherwise, oh, I'm really sorry for that. Basically we have the option that is mail to seller on product purchase. So if this option is enabled, and then the seller receives a mail when a customer purchases the seller's product, basically. So a customer purchases a product at the web store front end, and at that very moment a mail is sent out to the respective seller that his product has been sold out. Then we have notify admin when order status is changed by the seller. So if this option is enabled, that is notify admin when the order status is changed by seller, then the admin would be notified whenever a seller changes his order status. So the admin gets a notification that the seller has changed the order status of a particular order that has been placed for the seller's products. So that was it for that. And then we have order status for sellers. So here the admin would be able to set up the different order statuses for the sellers that can be selected by the sellers. So we have chosen a complete and a denied option for the time being, and we have also set up the pending one. So these three order statuses would only be available to the sellers while a seller tries to update the order status for their own placed orders. Then we have the order status sequence. So here you can set up the sequence of the orders or the status of the orders for the products that have been sold out for the sellers. So you can select the order status that would be considered. So basically, what it does is that in this sequence only the sellers can change their particular order status. So for example, we have set it as pending, then complete and denied. So the sellers can first go for the pending, then the complete, and then the denied. So it depends upon what kind of a sequence you have set up here. The same sequence would be available to the sellers under their own account panel for order status sequence. Then we have a complete order status, and here you can choose from a number of order statuses. So basically, for the complete order status, you need to select the order status that would be considered as completion of the product, and it would be used for the transaction. So you need to select the complete order status that actually makes the order complete. So accordingly, you can choose one option from the available order statuses that we have here to complete the order status of a particular order that has been placed. Then we have the cancel order status. So you need to select the order status that would be considered as the cancellation of a product and would be used to cancel a product basically. So accordingly, you can choose a cancel order status from the drop down that would be used. Then we have the shipping method for a seller. So basically, you need to choose the shipping methods for which the for the shipping method for seller, basically the admin needs to check or choose or select the shipping methods for which the shipping amount would be transferred to the seller's account. So whatever the different what we say as the shipping methods would be available from that list of shipping methods, the admin can select the ones for which the shipping amount would be transferred to the seller's account. Then we have the minimum cart value for checkout. So here the admin can set the minimum cart value for the customer to proceed to the checkout. So the base price of the product should be $10 only. Then for example, we have set it as $10, so the basic price of the product should be at least $10, otherwise the customer would not be able to make a checkout with the particular product. And then lastly, we have the product quantity restriction. So here the admin can set up the maximum product quantity that can be purchased by each customer for each of the products that are there within the marketplace web store. So that's for the product quantity restriction. So this was about the order section, and now let's go to the SEO settings. And under this particular tab, basically the admin can manually add the SEF URLs for the site URLs, and the admin just needs to select the URL link under the column and then type its SEF keyword for the store pages. So under here we have first the option to use SEO keywords for the marketplace. So you can enable or disable this particular option, and we have two different tabs to configure. One is the create SEF links, and the other one is the product SEF links or the product SEF settings. So let's go to the create SEF links, and here we have two columns. One is the select route, and the other one is the SEO keyword for the store page. And for the select route, we have different routes that we have, like the login, we have customer partner profile, when we have the sell, top search category, cross sell, upsell, add products, price alerts, and much more. And on the right hand side, we have the SEO keywords for the store pages. So we have set up, for example, for the account login, we have set it as account-login. For the customer partner profile, we have set it as seller-profile. For the sell page, we have set it as marketplace. So for example, for category, we have set it as MP category. For the account customer partner add product, we have set it as MP add product hyphen hyphen is there between the MP add and the product. So this is how you can select the route and set the SEO keyword for your store pages under the create SEF links. Now let's go to the product SEF settings, and here the admin would be able to configure some options. So the very first option is seller details. So here the admin would be able to choose from the seller name, shop name and the screen name. So here the admin can select which seller details that should be displayed with the product name. So the seller details, so actually the admin can select which details, like the seller name should be visible with the product, or the seller's shop name should be visible with the seller's product, or the screen name should be visible with the seller's product name. So here for the seller details, the admin can choose it accordingly, whatever name he wants to allow to be visible to the customers at the front end along with the respective seller's product. Then we have the display format, and here the admin can choose from only product, seller detail product, product seller detail. So here the admin needs to select the display format for the SEF as only product, or seller detail product, or what we can say as the product seller detail. Then we have the default name. So here the admin needs to set the default name that would be used for the seller's info and for the admin products if the seller's info doesn't exist, and also for the admin products if the seller's info is required. So basically the default name would be used as the seller's info, and for the admin products if the seller info does not exist as per the above selection, and also for the admin products if the seller info is required. So this particular name would be used there. Then we have the make product name as SEF. So we need to check this option to use the product name if the SEO keyword is not available for any of the products. So if any of the products if we are not set up the SEO keyword for any of the products, then this particular or the product name would be used if the SEO keyword is not found for a product. And lastly we have the add extension option. So basically enter the extension if the admin wants to show that extension with the SEO URL with a dot or as the initial. So this would be attached to the particular URL, whichever would be visible at the website front end. So this would be the extension type of that particular URL. So that was the product SEF settings under the SEO settings that we have. And now let's go to the sell tab. So basically using these options, the admin would be able to manage his sell page, and the admin can display information to the customers and the sellers in the form of tabs. So here we have two different options to configure for the sell tab. One is general one and the other one is the sell tab. So under the general, the admin would be able to configure some options like the sell header, sell buttons title, show sellers, show products, seller list limit, and the seller product list limit. So for the first option, the admin can set the sell header text that would be visible on the sell page itself. Then we have the sell button title. It would also be visible on the sell page. So whatever you have typed here would be visible on the sell button title. Then we have the show sellers. So if you enable this option, then the sellers would be visible on the sell page itself. Then we have the show products. If we enable this option, then the products would be shown on the sell page. We have the sell list limit. So you can set up the limit of the seller list or the length of the seller list on the sell page by entering a numeric value. For example, we have set it as 50, then the list that would be visible would be of the count 50 on the sell page. And then we have the seller product list limit, like it's for the limit of the seller products. So for each of the particular seller, how many products should get visible. So we have set it as 500 on the sell page. So this is the seller's product list limit that we have set up here. So that was about the sell section. Then we have the profile settings, and here the admin can globally enable or disable the seller's profile details that would be visible to the customers. So here the admin can set up the allowed profile fields. As you can see, we have a number of options here to choose from, and depending upon the requirement, the admin can allow the profile fields to use for the seller's profile page. So any of the options that we have chosen here would be visible for use to the seller under their own profile page. And then we have the allowed public profile fields. So under this option, you need to check the public profile fields that the admin wants to display for the seller, and these would be visible to the customers at the front end. So these are the options that are visible to the customers at the website front end for the sellers. Then we have the customer can see seller's email ID. So enable this option to allow the customers to see the seller's email ID. Otherwise, the customers cannot see the seller's email ID if chosen as disabled. And for the customers can see seller's telephone number, we can enable it to allow these customers to see the seller's particular telephone number. Otherwise, you can choose it as disabled to not make visible the seller's telephone number. Then we have make a seller review on only order purchase. So if this option is enabled, then only the buyers who have purchased the seller's product can give the review to the sellers. Otherwise, the customers cannot make a seller review without making an order purchase. And lastly, we have the hide seller information. So if this option is chosen as enabled, then the seller's information will not be shown anywhere on the front end. And if you choose this option as disabled, then the seller's information would be visible at the places where it should at the web store front end. So that was about the profile settings. Now let's get to the catalog module configuration. And here we have two different options, like account and the product section. Under the account section, allowed account menu options for the sellers. So whatever account options you have chosen here would be available for the sellers to use under their own account panel. Like we have the my profile dashboard, order history, transaction, and the other options. Then we have account menu sequence. Here you can set up the sequence of the what we say as the allowed account menu options that we have already assigned to the seller. So accordingly, we can set up the account menu sequence, like the options that you want to set up in a different way if you want. So you can toggle our account menu sequence according to your own need. So that was about the catalog module configuration. Then we have the mail section, and under this tab, the admin would be able to set mail for the different conditions that will be occurring within the marketplace. So we have the mail keywords here that can be used up within the emails itself. For example, we have the order, then the order number would be visible within the mail. We have a message, you can set up a message, you can set up the subject, the commission, you can automatically get the product name, the product's quantity, the customer's name. So we have different options here as well, like the request for sellership, and you can choose the particular email that would be sent out whenever a customer applies for the sellership, or whenever a customer tries to become a seller. At that time, this particular email is sent out to the customer. And similarly, we have a mail to the admin after customer request. Whenever a customer applies to the seller, a mail is sent out to the admin as well. Mail after approved seller manually. So after the admin has manually approved the seller, approved or disapproved, at that time a mail would be sent out. Similarly, we have the for mails for the product ad. So you just need to select that particular mail for the product ad. We have mail to admin after product ad. We have mail after approve product manually. We have for the transaction ad, order mails, mail to admin after order status changes, customer contact seller mail, seller contact admin mail, edit product mail to admin, edit product mail to sellers, and the low stock mail to the seller. So these are the mails that are sent out and the different conditions that occur within the marketplace. So accordingly, you can choose the default one for each of these options here. And lastly, we have the PayPal option here. And what actually basically this allows is that so basically the PayPal is the payment mode for sending or receiving the amounts. So basically you can choose a sandbox for the testing, or you can choose a no for the production or the live mode, and accordingly you can set up your PayPal API username, your PayPal API password, your PayPal API signature, your PayPal app ID, and your PayPal email subject. For example, we have set it as mass payout. So whenever the admin makes mass payout to the sellers, at that time this particular PayPal account would be used to send out the amount to the different sellers. So you can set up the PayPal account details here, and you can go to the PayPal website. You can register yourself there as a merchant, and you can get all of these options: the username, the password, the signature, the app ID, and that's it for the PayPal section or the payment section. So this was the basic initial configuration settings for the marketplace or the multi-vendor module that we have installed within our OpenCart store. And using this marketplace module, now the single seller store has been converted into a multi-seller marketplace, and anyone can become a customer, and any customer can become a seller as required, and they'll have their options under their own account panel. They can manage their orders, they can set up the shipping and much more. So that was much about the main initial configuration settings that are required under the admin's account there within the backend panel for the module configuration settings. And we'll be taking you through the different options as well, like let me show you that. So here we have the marketplace thing, and under that we had the configurations that we are done with, and then we have the catalog pro features, for example the top searched items, reasons, cross-sell, upsell, super bar, total cross-sells, price alerts. We have mapping, we can do an attribute mapping, we can do option mappings. We have the sales sections for the orders, the income and the transactions. We have reviews for the seller reviews, the seller review fields. Then we have the shipping section, mail, notification, information, and the custom fields that are available to the admin for the marketplace module itself. So we'll be talking about them as well in the coming videos. So for this particular video, we were just talking about the basic initial configuration settings that are required, which we have gone through, like the general, commission, product, advanced, order, SEO, sale, profile, catalog, mail, and the PayPal payment section details. So that was much about this tutorial, and I hope it helped you out. And do keep watching this video tutorial, and in the coming video tutorial we'll be taking you to the seller end, and we'll be showing you how the sellers would be able to check or how the sellers would be able to register first, and how their account panel is visible to them, and what different options they get under their own account panel, how they can add the product, and how they can view their own orders and the other things as well. So thanks for watching this video, and have a great day ahead.